Hi friends, welcome back to my session, and in this session we are going to discuss about the basic virtual machine creation in Azure. So how we are going to create Windows machine as well as Linux machine, and how we will be able to connect to those machines, everything we are going to discuss in this session. Okay, so I'm for creating the virtual machines, I'm going to log on into the portal.azure.com, which is the portal where we are going to create our infrastructure. Whatever the services which are required, not only the virtual machines, we have the virtual network, we have the NAT services, we have the everything, whatever the services which we are going to create, everything will be created in the portal.azure.com only. Okay, here, what is virtual machine? As you know, the virtual machine is nothing but a physical machine, but it is not physically available, as we are going to create mission in the cloud environment. That is nothing but remote environment. In remote, we have the physical server is there. So from through internet, we will be able to create the mission on remote. That is nothing but the virtual mission. Okay. Here Azure is a cloud service provider which will provide us the required service what we are actually looking for. So based on the usage, they will charge to us. Okay, fine. Right now, if you want to create any resources, then here plus, by clicking on the plus symbol, you will be able to create any service. But for right now, for quick as a quick iteration, I will let you know something, the basic points which are required while you need to consider before creating any resources in the Azure. Okay, first of all, you need to create a virtual machine. For that, you need to create a resource group. Okay, just create a resource group. Resource group is nothing but a it's a kind of boundary. So in that boundary only you will be able to create all the required resources. Okay, right now I have the earlier I have some resources there, but right now I am going to create the new resource group. Everything I will be creating the new way. Okay, because of for your understanding, for your better understanding. Okay, subscription. Right now it is a payable subscription because of as I don't have the free subscription. So right now I'm using the pay as you go subscription. Okay, the resource group name I want to set is resource group underscore dev test. Okay, dev test rg underscore dev test is the my resource group name. Okay, you here there are different regions are there. So as Azure is spread over the all over the world, so whatever the region you are, so and whatever the region you want to create your resources, so you will be able to create the resources in whatever the region you want. Suppose if you want to create the resources in the America, you can create. If you want to create in Europe region, you can create. So there are different regions are available in the Azure. So based on your requirement, you will be able to create your resources on that particular resource, on that particular region. Right now I'm going to select the region as East US. Okay, just tax. Generally tax, it is optional, it is not mandate, but tax are recommended at the time of automation. So for automation purpose, tax plays a key role. Just please remember that. Right now I'm not providing any such tax because of as it is created for the lab purpose, so that's fine. Okay, and review plus create. So without doing anything, I'm just review plus create validation failure. Why? Just please have a look. So the resource name gone out. Okay, rg resource group underscore dev test review plus create. Yeah, the validation has been passed. Just create. So the resource group will be created. Remember this, the resource group is nothing but the boundary of resources. Okay, yeah, right now the resource group has been created. Fine. So at the same time, if I want to create any virtual machine, that virtual machine needs to place in some network, because of if you take in the on premises, in on premises you have the network devices are there, the IPs will be get, and you are going to place your mission in that network only in order to isolate your network from the other networks, and at the same time in order to protect your device or your missions from the external attacks. In the similar way, we are also create the virtual network over the Azure in order to place our Azure resources in that Azure network. Okay, means we are going to create the isolated network in the Azure. So how the things are going to be, I will show to you. Just go to virtual networks, create the virtual network. Okay, the virtual network will be created, and the virtual network is at regional level. Okay, as I have my suspicion is pay as you go, and the resource group for which I am looking is right now I had created the RG dev test. Okay, the virtual name dev test underscore network. This is the network I'm going to create. So okay, dev test underscore network. Fine. If you want to check the network security, so virtual network encryption means if you enable this virtual network encryption, this enables virtual network encryption to encrypt the traffic within the virtual missions. By default, whatever the virtual missions which we had created in the same resource group will be automatically in the same network, means in the same network will be automatically able to communicate with each other because of the all the devices has been created in the same network only. If the devices are in the same network, then it will be able to communicate with each other by default. Okay, and if you want to encrypt the traffic which is routed between these devices are nothing but missions, you can enable this. So with this option you can encrypt the traffic. Azure Bastion. So Azure Bastion we will discuss on later. So what is Azure Bastion is nothing but if you want to connect to the virtual missions or transport layer security, you are going to use Azure Bastion, and it is a paid service. Just like how we will be able to connect to the missions with the for Windows mission, we are going to use the RDP remote desktop protocol, and for Linux missions, we are going to use SSH secure shell. It is a remote connectivity protocols for the respective missions. In the similar way, if I instead of connecting to virtual missions, either for RDP for Windows or SSH for Linux, if I want to connect over TLS, then by using with the use of Azure Bastion, it is a paid service, I can be able to connect. So this is the purpose of Azure Bastion. And Azure Firewall, if you want to protect your cloud network, and if you want to block the unwanted traffic that will allow into your network, so you are going to use the Azure Firewall. Okay, it is a like platform as a service, and you can use everything, but you just need to enable the Azure Firewall. So if you enable the Azure Firewall, you just need to select what kind of firewall actually you are looking for. So there are different settings there you can do. And Azure DDoS network protection means distribute denial of services. By default, it will what it will offer, it will offer to block the unwanted network traffic into your network. Okay, it is also it is also provide the one of the security to provide network, means to provide our network from the unwanted network traffic, because of hackers maybe try to hack our network. So by enable this Azure Firewall, by enable this Azure DDoS protections, we can be able to safely and secure our infrastructure from the unwanted or malicious network or malicious attacks. Okay, IP addresses. So by default, so /16 means we have 2 power 16 IP addresses. I means 2 power 16 means 265,536 IP addresses will be generated from this network. Okay, by default it will be provided. Suppose if you want to change it, you can customize your network based on your requirement. Okay, right now I am going to use the same default address which has been provided by the Azure. Okay, and while creating virtual network, you are going to create the subnets. Subnets is nothing but the smallest part of the, what is that? Smallest part of the virtual network. Means instead of creating single network, we can't accommodate all the things now. So in order to filter, in order to make segregation, we are going to make the subnets. Subnet is a part of virtual network. So by default these subnets will be created. Okay, I hope, did I enable any? Okay, fine. So for some resources there is a dedicated subnets will be created for in order to use those services, like Azure firewall. Suppose if I want to use the Azure firewall, I need to create some dedicated Azure firewall subnet, otherwise it won't work. So in the similar way, by default one default subnet will be created. If you want to customize the default subnet as well, you can do. I will show to you how it will be done. Okay, just a moment guys. Okay, subnet purpose is default, or if you want to create for the Azure version, if you want to create the Azure firewall and firewall management, these are the subnets which need to be created if you want to use those services. By default I'm going to select the default subnet only, and I'm going to create the subnet one. Okay, this is subnet one, and the starting address is, IP address range is, okay, this is the virtual range, and starting address, fine. So like this, 10.1.0.0, otherwise 10.0.0, 1.0 by 24. So here whatever the slash notation means CIDR range. So if you sell the 24, you will have the 256 IP address, and if you sell the 23, you have the 512 address. So in the similar way, you can, whatever the requirement you have, based on the requirement, you are going to select those IP service range. Fine. Okay. So starting address range is, okay, fine. So address range with all of the previous subnet. Okay. So subnet one. Just a moment, guys. Okay, 256. Starting address is 1.0. Okay, slash 24. So address prefix 10.0.1.0 by 24 overlaps with the following prefix in other subnet. So then I will use 2.0. Fine, because of Azure firewall has already taken the 10.0.1.0, so that's why there is a overlap happens between, same thing here displayed here. So that's why I'm saying that 2.0 means 2.0, 2.1, 2.2, like the 2.255, 256 IP address will be created from this respective subnet. Okay, if you want to enable private net, no default outbound access, because if you just click on it, by default it will be private. Means private subnet is the resources or the virtual machine which has been created under the private subnet will by default didn't have any outbound traffic. Okay, NAT gateway, generally the purpose of NAT gateway is to provide the network access, outbound network access to the devices which has been created in the private subnet. Okay, network security group, and there is no network security group right now, so we will discuss on later. So click on save. Fine. Okay. Tags, it is not required. Review and create. So, and the network security group can be applied on top of subnet or on top of NIC. Both possibles we have. So first of all, we are going to create the NSG. Means we are going to create the virtual network. In virtual network, NSG is a part of virtual network. So the network has been created. Okay, go to resource. So okay, so right now my requirement is I just want to create one virtual mission. Okay, right now I don't have any virtual missions in this, so just create. I just want to create the Azure virtual mission. If I want to create the Azure mission with the preset configuration, because as I already have the any prescribed configuration set, so based on that, if I want to create any virtual mission, then that is possible. But right now, for this lab purpose, I just created the Azure virtual machine. Okay. So what are the things we need to select while we are creating the virtual machine? Okay, that is a group name, as we already created the dev test, and the virtual machine name is we I will select Windows VM. Windows VM. Okay, and as underscore will not accept, so okay, Windows VM, and I am going to select the East US and availability zone. Means here availability zone, there is a lot of things we need to discuss, so I will discuss on later. So no infrastructure redundancy is required. Suppose if I want to make the virtual machine which is highly available, so these are the different options available in Azure availability zones. Means if I select the availability zone, what happened? So the same mission will be created in different available zones. Suppose if one mission went down, then automatically the second mission will come into the picture. At the same time, if you want to add this mission to the virtual mission scale set, generally it is used for the load balance purpose. Behind of that load balancer, the virtual mission scale set is there, so it will automatically for scaling purpose. Availability set means in the same data center, it will be replicated in 3 times, like that. Okay, so you can refer in the Azure classes. So here in the DevOps, it is not much required, as it requires for cloud engineers, not for DevOps engineers. Okay, and who are working on infrastructure, they will take care about that. So okay, and the launch type is standard, and image, here we need to select which type of image we are looking for. Right now I'm going to install the Windows Server 2019. Okay, fine. Here we can use Windows Server 2022 as well. That is our requirement. So based on the requirement, you can select. So 64-bit operation only, and the spot discounts. Right now, it's not required. Otherwise, run with Azure spot discounts. Okay, means only your virtual machine will be evicted when Azure access capacity disappears. Okay, means suppose if I want additional discounts without costing the actual price of the Azure VM. Suppose if I enable this option, then I will get a discount. Means whatever the missions which is unused in the Azure, that will be assigned to us. Suppose if Azure has requirement to get those missions, then automatically by sending a information to us, they will get back the VMs. Okay, so just please have a look on it. Just right now I'm just disable it. Enable Hibernate. Okay, right now Hibernate is not supported by the size that you have created. So we will discuss on later what is the Hibernate option and username. So what is username? Dev tester. Okay, and password I am going to set. Okay, and fine. Inbound rules by default, as we are going to create the Windows machine, so that's why by default RDP needs to be enabled. Okay, fine. And licensing, if you have already existing license, you can use for the same. Fine. And next, so the disks. So what are the disks? Because of while we are creating the mission, just like we need to sell the hard disk, in the similar way we need to sell the disk. So what is the disk size? So I'm going to image default image, and I'm going to select the standard HDD. That's enough, as we have different options to explore. The standard HDD, the standard SSD, the premium SSD. So but for right now it is for lab purpose, so that's why I'm just selecting the standard HDD. It will fulfill my requirements. And delete with VM. Whenever I'm going to delete the VM, this disk will be deleted automatically. Suppose if you don't want to delete the disk when you delete the VM, you can uncheck this option. Okay, but in my requirement, if I delete the virtual machine, along with the virtual machine I need to delete this disk as well. So that's why I just enable this option. Okay, key management, platform management key. Suppose if you want to manage your key independently, so you can use the customer manager key, but right now I'm going to use the platform manager key. Means the Azure will manage these keys. Okay, fine. Suppose if you want to any additional disk here, from here you will be able to create the additional disks. Okay, then networking. So in which network you are going to place your virtual machine? So as I already created one virtual network, this is the dev tester network. So as I'm going to place this, and at the same time in which subnet? So as I already created one subnet one, I'm going to place the resources virtual machine in this particular subnet only. So fine. So public IP, is the public IP is required? Yes. If you want, if you don't want to as in any public IP, then you can select none. But I want the public IP, because of without public IP I cannot be able to access the mission from the public domain, means from anywhere across the world. So that's why. And NIC security group basic is required, otherwise you can select the none as well. uh, Means if you select the none, all the ports on this virtual machine will be exposed to the public internet, because of any person from anywhere across the globe can be able to access your virtual machine from anywhere. Suppose if you don't want to do the like that, you can be able to provide the basic network security. Okay, and public inbound ports, yeah, right now I just enable the RDP only. And delete public IP and NIC when VM is deleted. Yes, accelerate, enable accelerated network, it's not required for right now. So that's why I just disable this option. Okay, load balancing means here if you are going to create this mission for the load balancing purpose, and the mission will be created on backend of this any virtual Azure load balancer, but right now it is not for the load balancer, it is for lab purpose only. So that's why I didn't select any load balancer. And management. So here in management, like identity, enable system identity managed. If you want to, if you want to manage the identity, you can select this option. And Microsoft Enter ID means if you are working for the enterprise, and here they are using the Microsoft Enter ID. So if you want to log into the mission with the help of Enter ID, by enable this option, by using your single sign-on credentials, you will be able to log on into this mission as well. Okay, auto shutdown means if I want to use this mission only for particular interval of time from morning 10 a.m. to evening 6 p.m., then after that I don't have the requirement with this mission. So at that time, instead of avoiding charges, if I want to make this shutdown, then with the help of this option I will be able. So but right now it's not required for me. Suppose if you have the requirement, you can. So backup. So if you want to take, if you want to enable the backup for the missions which you are going to create, so I am going to select the backup. And you need to set the backup policy, means while generating the backup, we have the backup policies are there. So you need to create the backup policy. So what are the things which you have mentioned in the policy, accordingly it will be executing the backup policy. Means suppose on daily you need to execute the backup at 6 morning 6 a.m. and the retention period will be 7 days. Means suppose up to 7 days the backup will be there. After 7 days, the first policy which has been taken, means the first backup, it will be eliminated and the new backup will be added, like that. Right now I don't have any backup policy with me, so that's why I just disable this option. Okay, and enable host patch. If you want to, any OS updates, you can enable here. And monitoring, for monitoring this virtual machine you need monitoring. So by default Azure provides Azure Monitor in order to monitor your virtual machine. And some companies are using the third party tools in order to monitor the things which happen in the environment. Okay, you can, like this, you can use the monitoring option if you want. And advanced applications, so custom data. And if suppose custom, what is the purpose of custom data? Suppose I will let you know. Custom data, pass a script, configuration file or other data into virtual machine. When it is being provisioned, the data will be saved on the virtual machine is in a known location. Suppose if I want to add configuration file or data into the virtual machine, when it is getting ready, at that time by passing the script, whatever the here, if you provide any script, that will be executed. And the data will be ready at the time of our virtual machine creation. User data, if you by using this user data, what you will be there. See here also you can run a script or any other data that will be accessible to your application throughout the lifetime of the virtual machine. Don't use user data for storing your secrets or passwords. Means for storing a passwords we can't use the user data. Means suppose if you want to get it ready before your virtual machine has been created, at the time you are going to use the custom data or user data. Okay, these are the advanced things which we are going to consider. Capacity reservations, means if you want to use the capacity reservation, means Azure will provide the reservations. Like capacity reservation allows you to reserve the capacity for your virtual machine needs. You get the same SLA as normal virtual machines, and with the security of reserving and capacity of heading. So like capacity, suppose if your virtual machine has required desired capacity, means 16 GB of RAM or 32 GB of RAM or something, 512 GB hard disk, that will be at any point of time, that capacity will be reserved for this virtual machine. Okay, so these are the things which we need to consider while we are going to create any virtual machine. Simply I am creating virtual machine. Okay, so once the virtual machine has been created, just it will be, how much it will be charged? 9 rupees per hour. Okay, as it is checking the validations. Okay, just create. You have set RDP ports open to the internet, means the RDP 33810 port has been open to internet, because of if it is blocked, then to access the machine with the help of